down, but they're looking for the killer blow. That's it, back of the end zone. Dagger! He's looking. Jamil's coming. He's moving. He's got him. He's got him. It was caught, but Jed has called the sack. Incomplete. He called the sack. It's 2 points to the Hammerhead. An unbelievable sack there by Jamil. The last game of the day. It's caught and it's in. It's a touchdown.
That's it.
It's a touchdown. The last play of the game. The clock is at zeros. That's it. Your Swansea Hammerheads are advancing to the Division 1 final, having knocked off the 2 seed and having knocked off the 1 seed. Alan Young, you look absolutely stunned.
What do you mean by live? Genuine live?
Yes. We're broadcasting.
Hello, radio!
And now, a new episode of The Way We HNC It.
Hello, yes, welcome to another episode of The Way We HNC It. It has been a bumper couple of weeks of flag football action with 2 international tournaments, and we are on the verge of the domestic National Flag Football League finals here in the UK. But this is not a preview episode, this is a look back episode to the IFAF Flag Football World Championships, and I am joined by 2 of our fantastic Great Britain players, EP Sports' finest, Grace Conway and Liam Harper. Welcome, guys. Thank you very much for coming on. How are you? How is real life treating you now that you're back?
We were just having that discussion, weren't we, Liam? It's always difficult when you come back from a tournament to kind of get back into regular life, work life, and picking everything up that's happened while you've been away. Those tournament blues are definitely real. So the first week was a struggle. I feel a bit more back into some sort of routine now.
Yeah, thankfully work wasn't too busy when I got back, so I was able to watch some of the games back, watch some of the moments back, which was nice. I could still feel a little bit like I was there, watching the streams back in particular. And I don't know, I had it with the audio on, so it was fun to kind of revisit those games and the atmosphere. I went for the Germany game first for obvious reasons. But I think when you're playing, you actually are able to zone out a lot of the noise that's going on around the game. And so watching it back, I barely remember the air siren, which was going off constantly, but I think I just managed to zone it out while I was playing. And obviously Grace and the women's players were there and the staff to support us as well. So it was fun watching them pop up as well on the stream and some of the songs and things they were singing. It's good.
Yeah, as a fan, I can't say we could switch the air siren off. We were trying to compete with it, and we had a small little group in comparison to their fan base. It was definitely very loud.
There was definitely some games where it was okay on the stream if you were watching the game that the air siren was watching. But obviously, if you were watching a game on the next pitch over, it's still going off in the background. There was a couple of games where I, to put it nicely, cared less. I was I am muting this, because I can't listen to this for 8 hours. We're going to mute this for now. But it was
very loud.
It was very cool to have everything streamed, with the notable exception of one game that you won't be able to watch back, Liam. But other than that,
I know. Thankfully, we had the VO camera going on the sideline. Paul had set that up for us, so we are able to watch the game back, but not with the same angle or same quality as the streams. Yeah, I think I've said this to a few people, but obviously it's only a very small percentage of people who are actually there physically watching the games, whereas the majority of people who are interested in watching the tournament were at home. So I think nailing the streams and getting them right was excellent by the organisers, by IFAF. So yeah, that's made I think hopefully people back home were able to kind of really enjoy the games. The camera angles were good. I think the only thing, maybe obviously the finals had it, but with no commentary. But across 6 pitches, it was never going to be commentary on every pitch, I would imagine. But I still think that the quality of stream was so good that it didn't really matter too much.
Yeah, it was very handy. Yeah,
they upped the game as well, didn't they? I think in comparison to Ireland, the streams were much better. And like you say, it's a big thing when people can't travel, is to actually be able to watch the games, and it's nice to be able to watch back as well, like you've done, Liam. So it's a good thing, definitely.
Yeah,
and then looking forward, it's great for us to have that film to analyze our opponents for the upcoming tournaments and things like that. And obviously, they'll do the same for us. But I think it's just good to have that.
Yeah, right. There's now so much film out there of 55 or 54, I guess, flag teams, like international flag teams. Is now just there's like a week's worth of film on everyone, which I guess will be exciting.
I can't wait to see how many teams are running the Japan offense next year. Might take a while to master it, but there'll be some teams attempting it, and I won't be surprised to see some of those plays on Saturday and Sunday at the playoffs.
Yeah, I was excited to see like how many, if anyone's been like quick enough off the mark to like see it, rep it, and then feel comfortable like running it within like 2 weeks. I'm sure there'll be teams out there.
I was speaking to the team manager of Japan after our game in the dinner hall, and he was like, "We weren't as crisp as I would like to be, or we don't feel as crisp." Like, if that's you guys not at your sort of crispest in terms of just the way they're executing those handoffs, side snaps, pop snap, all those little intricacies, then I don't really want to play them when they're at their absolute best.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a good watch. That game for sure. If we go right back to the start, talk to me just about the venue, about Pialati, just as a place to be for a week, and obviously to play flagging. Like, it looked stunning. Like, it looked stunning in the build up, like just from the photographs. But like, tell me all about it.
Liam, do you want to go first?
I was waiting for you, but yeah, no, I'll go. Yeah, it's probably. I mean, it's definitely the most beautiful place I've ever played flag football. I mean, going to the University of Stirling for games is quite a nice spot with the university campus, the lake, and the view of the monument. But I think, yeah, that is definitely the most beautiful place I played. It's pretty much its own contained like village. It's a kind of Olympic Paralympic training centre, set on a lake, surrounded by the woods, and then there's these pitches, grass pitches, and then an artificial pitch within that, and a few kind of buildings and all there's a lot of accommodation around there as well. So it had that very much like an athlete village vibe to it. I know quite a few teams had to stay in Lahti, which is 20 minutes away. So I'm glad that we weren't one of those. I think it would have spoiled the experience a little bit because they had to get a kind of a bus back and from there, whereas we were able to just walk everywhere, and then if we wanted to pop back to our accommodation, then we could do that when needed. So I think we benefited from that. But I think where we were as well, the hotel we were in, I think Grace will tell you a bit more about their rooms, but it was a beautiful kind of new accommodation that we were in. I think we had the newest accommodation in the whole place, and we were on the ground floor. The women's players were on the top floor, but we would go out on the patio at the back of our room, and you could just sit there with a coffee in the morning and just have a view of the woods. And I would just sit there and think, is this actually what I'm doing? I'm coming over here to play flag, and I get to just play in this amazing environment, just spend time here. And then, yeah, having the lake there to go and have a bit of a swim and a dip in the evening, and then the sauna as well. Obviously, the Finns love their saunas, so we did that pretty much every day. Just go for a bit of a dip in the water, then go in the sauna, then back out again. The first time we went for a sauna, we were in there with the Georgian men's players. We played them during the day, and we were chatting to them. The guys who were there will always remember that Georgian sauna. The guy was sort of sprinkling the water on the coals like a chef. He was splashing it on the walls. He was waving his towel around, getting the air going. I don't think I've been in a hotter sauna. That was an experience. But yeah, what I'd say is just one of the best experiences of my life there, and part of that was because of the venue and the sort of the setting of it all. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I can't top that. It was gorgeous. You kind of had a bit of everything, like Liam said. You had the kind of the woodlands, you had the lake. It was gorgeous. The first day we got there as well, it was just before the men had arrived. It was a really nice day. And just kind of that initial walk where it was like all sunny and the lake and there was people kind of swimming in it. It was gorgeous. The women's team actually never made it to the sauna because for some reason, every time we arrived, we decided to go when it was closed. So that wasn't ideal. And the flip side, as much as the accommodation was very nice, it was an absolute trek away from dinner. So you had a nice walk every time you went to the food hall. But I'm only bringing it down slightly because Liam's done all the positives.
No, it did everything was the first day that you guys were there, and like the photos went up of like setting up kind of Camp GB with the flags and all that kind of stuff. It just looked like It looked amazing. Yeah, and I definitely had in advance like stocked it on like booking.com to be like to have a look and all that kind of stuff, and obviously in contact with Andy, who was just like, this place is nuts.
Yeah, the organisers put on an amazing tournament. I really enjoyed Ireland last year. The Euros was great. I thought, and again, the setting was really nice. The university there hosts loads of tournaments, so it's really well suited to that kind of thing. The pitches were really close to where we were staying. I think the Worlds and the setting topped everything from Ireland. The only thing in Ireland that was better was that we all had our own rooms, whereas this time we were sharing. So we had, and this is actually probably quite a low number compared to some, but we had 3 people to a room. I know the Aussie men had 5 people to a room, and Grace, you had 4, didn't you?
We had 4, yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be the only thing that I would change, but the accommodation was really nice. But yeah, the organisers, it was really well run. The opening ceremony was good. That was kind of a nice gathering of everyone, and they introduced the teams, and it was just nice to see everyone gathered together the night before. So that was really good fun as well. And then just the way it was laid out, I think it hits different when you step on a pitch that has all the markings and has the yardage numbers on it, and it just feels great to be on that sort of pitch. I think certainly adds to the experience. It's a bit different to some of the pitches that we might play on here in the UK in BAFA games.
Yeah, it definitely felt very professional. And I think being with obviously the majority, like you say, not all, but the majority of teams being on site as well, it did really have that kind of team village feel. And after kind of watching all the Olympics and seeing everything on kind of social media of their Olympic village and stuff, it just felt very surreal to be in something very similar.
Yeah, that was going to be like my kind of question. Like, obviously, it's so hot on the back of an amazing Paris Games. We all know that we're now in the kind of flag football Olympiad. Was that like a topic of conversation? Did it feel, like there was a presence there that it was kind of on the back of people's minds, or was it like, it's the world, it's all business?
It felt very all business for us. I don't think we really discussed the Olympic. I don't even think the topic came up once. I think before, when again, like you saw it on all social media, a couple of the girls are sending all videos to each other like, can you believe like this is going to be us in 4 years kind of thing. But while we were there, it was very much all head in those games. It's the world championships. Like, let's go and do what we need to do kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the only time it was really mentioned was in the opening ceremony. So Pierre Trochet, the IFAF chief executive, if that's the right job title for him. Yeah, he mentioned it in the opening ceremony, and I think the main thing he mentioned was that he doesn't want 2028 to be just a one and done thing. I think anytime he talks about it, he always talks about it wanting to be there in 2032 in Brisbane as well, which is great to hear. So yeah, that was really the only time, and then the focus is on very much the tournament at hand and enjoying that experience. I tried to make a conscious decision to kind of really enjoy every moment while I was there and just soak it in, like no matter what was happening on the field, just making sure that I really enjoyed the experience, because I don't know how many of those experiences I'll be able to enjoy as a player. So I just wanted to make sure that I could soak it all in. Like on the first day of competition, we had a gap between the Georgia game and the Sweden game, and just after lunch, we all had lunch together and we just had a bit of downtime, so I just went down to the lake by myself and just stood there with the water up to my knees and looked around and thought, well, I'm really lucky to be in this kind of place, in this situation. It was a bit surreal, actually. So that was really lovely.
That's so good. So, opening ceremony, does that like feel surreal? Does that feel like, obviously it's a very cool experience, like, and I know you had one kind of at the Euros last year. Is that something that you like? Because to me, when I hear the phrase opening ceremony, like I'm immediately thinking like, yeah, major world championships, major Olympics. I know that they didn't do like a boat cruise down the lake in Finland.
It was definitely a bit more low key than that.
But like, is that kind of like is that the moment that it sinks in, or is it like when you get off the plane, or is it like, your 5-minute warning for the equipment checks or whatever? Like, what's your like kind of holy shit, I'm at the World Championships moment, do you think? We'll put this one on Grace.
That is really difficult. I think on the journey there, when we were on the plane, we were all Ryanair, so we weren't sat next to each other, and it just kind of had that moment of like, right, this is the first step. You're on the flight, you're on the way there, and because there's not a lot you can do on a flight as well, it's time for thinking. But I don't think it really set in until really, because we were there a little bit before the men's team as well, so we had 2 training days, and even then it just kind of felt like, obviously we all knew where it was going and what we were there to do, but I think it didn't really kick in until the first game, kind of being on the pitch. And the ref, we had a US ref in our first game, and he kind of was going through the, like, have fun, you're at a world championships, go out there, like, do your game. And like, when he was in, I was like, oh my God, yeah, we're at world championships. So I think that's when it kind of kicked in for me.
Yeah. Liam?
Yeah, a little bit during the opening ceremony, I think. It's not as grandiose as an Olympics opening ceremony by any stretch, but it had its own kind of charm to it. And yeah, just having all those countries around, and whenever someone's country was called out, the kind of cheers that went up, and some countries were a little less reserved than others to kind of enjoy that moment. And I think that it did kind of sink in a little bit then. And then probably we played Georgia first, kind of walking out to the middle with Maka, my co-captain. It was my first time captain in the team, and so just walking out with the little pennant to hand over to the Georgians, I think it kind of hit then. I was like, okay, this is the kind of what I've been working towards for all these months, what we've been working towards for all this time. So yeah, it really hit then. Just that moment, the coin toss.
What did you pick? Did you win the coin toss?
I think so. We went 5-2 in terms of win-loss as a team. I think me and Maka went 2-5 on the coin toss, maybe even 1-6. Yeah, we did have a good time with the, but yeah, we won more games, so that's fine.
You did. That's People will be more concerned about the overall win-loss than the coin toss record. So I think you're kind of off the hook on that one. So day one, Liam, after the first day, you told me that it was the best, probably the best day you've ever had playing flag, I think was what you wrote down in your diary. So yeah, tell me about your first day.
Yeah, I mean, it genuinely was. I think we beat Georgia and we beat Sweden on day one, and I think just the whole tournament and the atmosphere and everything around it just made it so much fun. And just the team that we have, the 12 players and the coaches and the staff, we have such a good bond. I think something that we've developed across the course this year, and I think I've talked about it a little bit before, but we've really developed great team chemistry this year. Casper Faramond, sports psychologist who's worked with us at camps, has been a big part of that. But obviously it requires everyone to buy into it. And I think that really showed across not just day one, but the whole tournament. But yeah, just how much fun it was to play with those guys and be on the field. Obviously it's nice to win 2 games, obviously. And I got my first safety as a GB player, which was nice. So from a personal level, I thought I had a really good day. I felt as a team we did really well. I think we were a little bit disappointed actually after the Sweden game that we just didn't play that well in the second half. We didn't actually score a point in the second half on offense, and we did enough in the first half to win. But it was quite interesting at the end of that day that there was some disappointment in terms of how we'd finished that game. But I was really impressed by everyone just coming together and being able to have quite a frank conversation as a group of players, and just talking about how we needed to focus on the next day, which was going to be Germany. That was going to be our next game, so the focus needed to move to them. But yeah, just an awesome first day. The weather was great. It was all week. It was just a really fun day.
Yeah, you could feel it. You could feel it on both teams. To be fair, like coming through on the stream, that everyone seemed to be kind of, it's a big stage for many of you. It's the first time in a world championship for the entire women's team. Obviously, it's the first time in a world championship. So yeah, great first day for you guys as well. Obviously with Czechia, it's a team that many of the kind of the squad know quite well, having played them last year, having been to Prague earlier this year, and then getting them in the group, and then obviously Israel in the afternoon. But so what was what was day one like, just kind of as an experience and as a playing group?
Yeah, it was a good day. It was a successful day. I think everyone was definitely felt the nerves going into the first game. Like you say, it's almost worse when it's a team that you know really well, because you've got that. It's a game of chess, isn't it? If they change something that we've done previously that worked, can we rechange it? I think there was definitely some nerves in that game at the start, but we got into the game really well. They slowly settled. From a personal standpoint as well, that first Czechia game was the first football I'd played in 15 months. So it was a big moment for me getting on the pitch as well and getting that first touchdown. I didn't want to let go of the ball. And then, so a good scoreline in the end of that one as well. And then we moved to the Israel game. And again, really good score. Defense had a great game, shut out there. So the positivity was definitely high going into the next game. And we knew the next day that it was going to be our harder one. So yeah, it was definitely a good start for us.
Can you talk a little bit about your kind of the last year for those that might not know, because even to me, like, that was like, it feels nuts that like that was your first game back. But obviously, with the way that the seasons work here, that was, it was your first opportunity. So yeah, like.
Yeah, it was. So I found out in May of 2023, I was playing a Baffa game day. We were in the mixed league and was just playing like we always do. Went to change direction and my knee dropped, and I later found out in the June that I'd torn my ACL. So obviously that's why I didn't play in the Euros last year in Ireland. I had to drop out of the team. I still went to the Euros, and then a week later I had surgery when we got back. So I had surgery in August 2023, and it just so happened that a year to the day of my surgery was the day I flew out to Finland for the Worlds. So it was some may say meant to be, but yeah, it's been a year of a lot of hard work to get there, and yeah, just so happened. Obviously, I had training camps and stuff, but that was the very first game I played.
Yeah, I think I saw your Instagram story on like being on the plane, being like 1 year on, or I think, and it was like I was made up. So yeah, so when when Britt delivers the ball and you catch it, and you're in for that first touchdown in the first game back in a World Championships, what does that feel like?
To be fair, I think I had about 5 seconds for it to feel amazing, and then I was like, right, what's the extra point play?
Yeah, of course, right. You're back to the huddle.
Yeah, I was like, oh, back to it. But everyone that was on the pitch as well, so all the other girls on offense were kind of high-fiving and being kind of like, it's great to have you back, which was really nice as well. And then my parents were there, so I could hear them on the sideline as well. So yeah, it was a surreal moment, but like I say, for about 5 or 6 seconds, and then I was like, right, what are we doing next?
Back in. Yeah. Yeah, so good. So day 2 for you guys was Panama. Just the one game. Was that weird?
Very, very, very strange. I was talking to Leon before the tournament actually, and saying how I was jealous of his schedule being able to play the next round of 16 on the next day. It was very strange because you've got all this build up in the day. We were an afternoon game as well, so you're waiting for all of that, and then kind of the warm ups, and you're trying to making sure that you're going into a game hyped and ready as well, which is always hard when it's your first game, and even harder when you've only got one that day. It was a little bit strange, but we made it work in the end.
And what a game it was as well. What a game it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk me through the kind of the roller coaster of that Panama game?
I don't know if I can. A lot of it's become a blur now. I actually remember coming off at the end of the game and kind of looking up, because they had these big screens on the side of the field. So obviously they were playing back the game, which you weren't watching as a player. But I remember walking off and looking up and thinking, oh my gosh, we only won by a point. How did that happen? But yeah, obviously we came back in that game from being down. So Panama were up. And yeah, we managed to pull it back, thankfully. But it was a roller coaster when I look back on it now. But while we were in the game, it never really felt like that. And I think that's definitely a credit to kind of the coaches and us players as well, really, of being, no one was really kind of feeling the pressure too much during the game. And I think that's definitely a good thing, because when you're chasing a game, it's sometimes you can almost try and do too much. But our OC Jack, obviously I can only really talk from an offense point of view, but our OC Jack was just kind of like, right, next play, right, we're going to do this, next play. And it was just very much like, carry on, business as usual, and we'll get there. And that's how it worked out in the end.
The final drive was like I was feeling it. Like I could feel my heart rate like through my t-shirt. But at the same time, I was kind of like, I know how this ends as well. Like back you guys to the very end. But like, yeah, I'm like sitting at my desk with multiple screens. You guys were over. Yeah, I think I looked down at my watch and it was like, that's an unhealthy heart rate for someone who's like sitting down. Like I'm like sitting at their desk.
Yeah, I can imagine it was a lot worse for a spectator than a player.
Yeah.
Like I say, when you're in the game, you're just like, right, yes, we know that this isn't ideal. We'd rather be up. However, if we panic, it's just going to make things worse. So it was just kind of keep going. Obviously, I got wiped out in that game, so that wasn't enjoyable. But yeah, it was, like I say, we had a plan and we just knew that we had to execute it.
That's the beauty of like watching sport, though, is like, because you're watching it and like you care, you know, deeply, and you can do nothing about it, obviously. Like I'm how many thousands of miles away watching it, and I'm like, but like, you know, the house probably could have been on fire behind me and I would have been like, no, I need to see fourth down. Had you guys already played at that point, Liam? Were you guys able to watch that game?
Yeah, so we had played Germany in the morning, and then we had gone in. I think I didn't actually get to see the game. I selfishly went and used the compression boots and sort of got my recovery right for the next game. So I do apologise, Grace and everybody else. So I still haven't watched that game. I need to watch it back.
Oh, mate, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that now. Don't tell me how it ends. I think. Yeah, that particular game I missed, unfortunately. But there were quite a few of the guys there, and you probably heard them, I would imagine. Because again, like Euros, I think there was some good chance.
Yeah, some of them came through on the stream, and I think for others it's probably just as well that they didn't.
maybe, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, let's talk about your morning then. Your final group game on day 2, which was Germany. It had been kind of hyped up as the big game of the group stage, kind of across the board. You guys versus the European champions. I know that you'd put a lot of effort into this game, basically since kind of last. Yeah, how did it feel for it to finally happen when you've been preparing for it for so long?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we had studied them even before we knew that they were going to be in our group, because we always had the potential of playing them at some point during the tournament. So I really want to credit Ollie Dyer a lot here. He did so much work in scouting them in preparation for the game, getting us, along with obviously defensive coordinator Andrew Gibson, like working together to come up with a game plan on the defensive side of the ball to sort of counter what Germany are really good at. And I think if you watch the game, you can kind of see it was very effective. Defensively, probably the best performance I've ever seen from a GB team or any team, to be honest, that I've been involved in. It was just a really well-rounded performance. I feel like 20 points almost flatters them a little bit in terms of how well we played on defense. It always felt that we were kind of in control of that game. Obviously, we didn't score on our first offensive drive, so we started with the ball. We didn't score. And then they went up 8-0, but I don't know. We just always felt that we knew what we were. We knew our game plan really well. We were never going to deviate from that, and we knew it was going to work. And then from there, it was kind of, we felt very much in control. And it's a credit to how well everybody played. I think some players said it was the best game they've ever played. And I think when you can do that in World Championships, in such a big game against the third-ranked team in the world, the European champions, to be able to perform at that level just shows how clutch you are. So I think that's like a really big kudos to those guys. So yeah, it was a really fun game to be part of. We've quite a few of us have played those players before in club games, at sort of Sport Monde Bowl or Big Bowl, Champions Bowl for a lot of the smoke players. So they're quite familiar with a lot of those guys. And I think, there's been a bit of back and forth, shall we say, on Instagram in the summer between some small players that aren't in our squad and Benji, the German quarterback. So there was a little bit of needle to it as well. We know each other quite well. But I think they probably underestimated us ultimately. I don't think they thought we were going to be as good as we were. And I think probably a lot of teams at the tournament probably were surprised when they saw the result. Because obviously I don't want to go into too much detail about the knockout structure and the fallibility of it. But most teams would have probably had Germany beaten us in their bracket. And so when they were doing their kind of calculations about who they might play in the next round and so on, we probably messed it up a little bit by beating Germany and finishing top of the group. But it's a real credit to the work we'd put in all year in preparation for the game. And then the execution was just such a high level. And I feel like every single player left everything on the field in that game. We could have asked for much more, and obviously came out with a really good result. Being able to just kneel the ball out, although Charlie ran around a little bit rather than just kneeing it at the end of the game, just being able to see it out like that is a great feeling.
Yeah, it's probably good to just feel that like complete control. I think the you guys were interesting in the sense that you kind of the maybe like the predicted bracket for and then also the Italy, Canada, Finland group. With them all taking a loss and it coming down to the tiebreaker, I think kind of threw a spanner in the works a little bit. So yeah, you guys obviously played your last 16 game the same day with our old friends France. When you see that come up, when you know it's France, what was kind of the initial, is there time to, like, what was the difference between like finding out that it was confirmed and then kind of kick off? Like, was there time to watch film, prep?
Yeah,
kind of.
It was a little bit chaotic,
that process
actually.
Like, yeah,
because we were at lunch after the Germany game, just trying to figure out how the groups had finished, and then trying to figure out who we would be playing in the last 16. It took a little bit of time actually to come through that, what the actual matchup was going to be. So I think local time, it was probably around 1:30 or 2 when we found out that we were playing France at 6:00. So we immediately booked a classroom. So there's like quite a few classrooms within the main building, which teams could book for their team meetings and so on. So we immediately went and booked a classroom from 3 till 4 to review some of the French games that they played in the group stage, and just seeing. We'd obviously done scouting prior to the tournament on them, and we kind of had a rough game plan, and we kind of had an idea of what they like to do. So it was more of just a confirmation about some of the things that we'd seen previously. They went to Sportmonde Bowl and took 2 teams to that, and so we kind of used that as a basis for some of the things we expected them to do. And obviously we played them twice at the Euros last year, so we know them quite well, and they've certainly improved a lot since the Euros. And they were a strong team then, but they've become much more diverse on defense. In particular, they got a new defensive coordinator, Said Salazar, who used to play for receiver for Mexico, who's now living in France. So he's changed the defensive scheme quite a bit, and they've definitely improved at certain positions on both sides of the ball. So actually going into the tournament, if you asked me which team from Europe I'd want to avoid, it'd probably be France, because I feel like they were looking to be one of the strongest teams going into the tournament. But we felt confident going into it that we kind of had a good game plan. We knew what they like to do and what we could do to counter it, and then also what we could do to kind of challenge them. And it ended up being a very, very close game. I think obviously it was a point difference in the end, but that is us driving at the very end of the game to take it from 9 down to 1. But it comes down to little moments in the game ultimately. What I always say is that we always win and lose as a team. There's always things all of us could have done a little bit better in that game to make it go the other way. But I feel quite a lot of pride in the way we finished that game. So we didn't just roll over and take the 9-point loss. Like the defense went out, got us the ball back, and then we drove down the field with about a minute and a bit to go and cut that scoreline down. So I think that for me was a big sign of the kind of resiliency that we have as a team, and the fight that we have. And I don't know if you've probably seen some of the images of us on the sideline, all sort of arm in arm and staying together as a team, because ultimately you need to stay together even when you lose games. It's easy to stay together and have that bond and chemistry when you're winning. It's really easy actually, but it's a lot different when you lose a game. So we stayed together as a group. Obviously, there was a lot of kind of heartbreak there, upset. I was kind of holding back tears myself, but we needed to kind of get back together, cool down, recover, eat, because we knew we had 2 big games the next day. So I'm really proud of the way the guys responded to losing that game, because we'll talk about it, I'm sure, in a moment. But we came back and had a really good day the next day.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So I guess, Grace, you guys obviously finished kind of mid-afternoon, but the women's group games obviously continued on till relatively late in the evening, and then I'm guessing that there's a lot of like admin done by the organisers. So when did you find out that you had Switzerland the following morning?
That's a very good question.
The whole week's a blur. I can't remember.
And you had to be perfectly honest. I actually can't give you a time. I'm not as precise as what Liam was there. But there was back and forth of who we were going to end up with. I do remember that. And I'd say it was kind of early evening, late evening maybe. We found out that obviously we would have Switzerland the next day. And then again, just kind of head in film. The coaches would always kind of go through the film first. We would watch the games ourselves and then we'd kind of all come together. And Switzerland were putting a lot of points up on teams. A lot of good teams as well. They were putting a lot of points up on, so we were kind of knew that going into the game that it could be a tough one defensively as well. But yeah, it was, and they put some points up on us as well, a fair few. So it went the way we predicted it, really.
So yeah, what's it like from kind of your perspective? Because I can't remember if I don't think you got Switzerland at the Euros last year, did you? So
no,
I don't think that. So it's pretty much a brand new experience playing them for a lot of the team. So what's that like when you kind of got like the evening, and then I guess were you up early, or are you in your routine of like normal sleep time, breakfast? No.
Yeah, we were kind of up early the whole time we were there, really. But yeah, so as a GB, we haven't played them, but a lot of their team kind of come from 1 or 2 teams within Switzerland, which a lot of us have played at things like Champs Bowl and a couple of other tournaments. So a lot of us knew some of the players and the kind of the way that personally they played. But in terms of obviously a Switzerland team, yeah, a lot of it was kind of going through film and seeing did they have any tendencies, were there things that we could exploit, were there things where they might exploit us, etc.
So that one, 35-26, you then get, kind of by the format being what it is, you then get Japan in the quarterfinals that afternoon. So again, another kind of fast turnaround. Obviously it's a bracket. Had you done any kind of Japan work previously, or was it a case of like deal with Switzerland and then come back?
So we had, and I think the coaches had done a fair amount as well. And in the lead up, we had watched Japan at their tournaments last year. So we were already kind of watching them and we knew what they were about and their style of play, which, as Liam said, it's super enjoyable to play against, to be honest. So yeah, we did have an idea of kind of what they would be doing and how they would come out against us.
And then, yeah, I guess for you, Liam, your opening game, I'm getting my days mixed up now. Your opening game was Spain?
Yeah, Spain.
Yes,
yeah.
Spain. Yes, Spain, then Japan. Yeah.
We played Spain.
You guys got Spain first in a game that was essentially nut.
Yeah, there was some interesting moments.
So, again, is that kind of obviously the night before for you guys is disappointing? Did you do kind of Spain prep that night when you kind of found out, or the coaches did Spain prep? Kind of the coaches did, yeah.
The coaches did, and they gave the players the space to kind of just go eat and recover and just kind of come down a little bit after the France loss, which I think was the right thing to do, because we were playing Spain at 10:30 the next day, so we did have time in the morning then to do a little bit of prep, and we kind of gathered together in our hotel rooms because there was TVs and you could hook a laptop up to it, so we were able to to kind of watch some clips of their games, just look at some of the key plays. We'd studied them a little bit because they took a team to Big Bowl, and it was pretty much the same team that went to Finland. So playbook-wise, on both sides of the ball, we kind of had an idea of what they were going to be running. So we were just able to key in on some of the key plays that we expected to see from them, because you don't have a lot of time, and you can't overload the guys with too much information. It's just a lot of it is focusing on the red zone. Obviously, key area to look at, and most quarterbacks, most teams have the plays they like to run in those situations, especially in really key situations like a fourth down in the red zone. They're probably going to go to a play that they like to run and they have success with. So if you can kind of study some of that, you can kind of get an idea and have a feel for it. So that actually paid off, because the play they ran on the last play was one that we'd scouted and the one that we expected to see in that situation, and it worked out pretty well. So yeah, that was an interesting game. I think they played pretty well. They were a very athletic, physical team. They're quite a young team, and the quarterback is only 19. That was his first major tournament. He's a professional contact quarterback in Germany, and I think fairly new to flag. So I think Big Ball was probably one of his first flag football tournaments. I think the future's bright for them. They have, like I say, a lot of really good young players, and he's obviously talented and only 19. But yeah, so they gave us a really good game. We shouldn't have been in such a close game, I don't think. I think we should have been better ultimately, and we kind of let them back into the game towards the end. I think the way we defensively saw out the game in that last 2 minutes was phenomenal, and a real kind of representation of just how well the defense played all tournament, to be honest.
So I am going to ask about the kind of the final, the final, I don't know what it was, maybe like 10 seconds of game time that lasted about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to ask.
I've got a good story about that. So yeah, I can't tell you sort of play by play what the flags were for. I'd have to go back and watch it again. But obviously there was about 4 penalties in a row, some committed by the defense, some committed by the offense. So ultimately, with like 4 seconds to go, they run a play, Spain run a play, and one of their receivers commits a OPI penalty. And so the clock expires in that time. So I think by the rule book, and I know the rules a little bit, but not them all inside out, but I'm fairly sure that if the clock expires and it's an offensive penalty, then the game ends. But if it's a defensive penalty, then obviously the offense will have another opportunity to run a play. But the referees, I don't know, I think the crew hadn't really ref together before. They said there was a bit of a language barrier, and ultimately they just messed up a bit and gave Spain one last play, even though they'd committed the penalty. So what I'll say is, after the game, we were having lunch, and the head ref came up to me, and he said, "We owe each other a beer." And I was like, what? I was kind of dazed at this point. I just obviously had quite an intense game. But he said, "Well, I owe you a beer because I fucked up and shouldn't have let them have that last play. But you owe me a beer because it gave you the chance to have that moment," which is the sack to end the game. So I was like, yeah, fair play. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Like, so there's obviously I don't know if you've watched the game back yet, but when you do watch the game back, the camera microphone picks up everything, right, from that sideline. On both sides, right? Like, the only difference being I don't speak Spanish very well. So what was that whole process like for the playing group of 5 of you that were on the pitch? Because obviously there's the referees are talking to each other. They've made a call. There was then the discussion, which was audible on the camera, about, oh, hang on, it's not that foul, it's this foul, go again. It's an offensive penalty. So your coaches are trying to say the game's over. The referees say, no, it's not, we're going again. And there's that discussion going on. And obviously the Spanish are like, okay, yes, let's do it. One more play. For a defensive group on the kind of in your little huddle, what's that like? Because that's a really high pressure situation where it would be easy to be like, this is unfair, and kind of lose your head a bit. And obviously, little did you guys know, you still had 2 more plays to go, or 3 more plays to go from there.
I think you just have to, for me anyway, it was just I probably will have to go back out there and run another play. It's better to have that mindset than say, well, no, we're not going to be going out there. I think you have to stay within the mindset of the game, and that you will have to go out there and run another play and have to defend again. So you just have to really stay switched on to that. And ultimately, as players, we can't control the decisions of the referees. So there's, for me anyway, like that is something that I shouldn't be focusing on. I shouldn't be worrying about. All I can control is kind of my concentration, my behavior, my effort, my attitude. So they're the sort of things that I'm thinking about, and they're the sort of that's what's going through my mind. And ultimately, still dialing into, right, if we go back out there, they're going to have a play from this yardage. What do I think they're probably going to run? What are the things they've been going to during the game? How should we defend it? Those sort of things are going through my mind. Nothing about really the rules or the decisions that the referees are not making. That goes for any time in any game, to be honest. I would say generally the refereeing was really, really good at the Worlds. I think there was maybe some inconsistency between referee crews from game to game at times, but within games, I thought the standard of refereeing was excellent. I really enjoyed actually chatting to some of the referees. Obviously, when you go out for the coin toss, you kind of get to talk to them. And I've got a lot of time for a lot of the referees because they obviously love the game a lot and want to make sure that we get a really good experience as players. So I've got a lot of time for that, and I don't envy their. I find head refereeing in BAFA games, difficult enough at times when people are being dickheads. So I think ultimately, you have to show them a lot of respect. And fair play to them for coming up afterwards and saying they got it wrong. I don't know what my response would have been if we'd lost the game, but yeah, I think in that moment as players, we just have to stay really switched on to then being able to have to go back out there and execute.
So you said that you'd scouted plays that they might run. When Spanish quarterback turned his back for the rollout, like, did you know then?
I knew when he went under centre what he was doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
so
watching it, as soon as he turned his back, I was like, bad for him. Because, you don't need to do that from the 1 yard line.
Well, I know he's not handing the ball off, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. And then, obviously, you had that moment where you get, the camera operator was very good as well, tracked you the whole way down the field on your celebration run. So, yeah, what's that moment like? Like when, you know what's going to happen and then you execute the play that you're asked to execute.
I think it's a dream as a blitzer, isn't it? You're a blitzer, Bez, I think
it does feel good.
The dream into a game as a blitzer is to get a sack and wheel down the sideline. I think you can't really ask for much more. And then to do it in a game like that at the World Championships was very, very fun. But yeah, the moment was amazing. And I don't know, I kind of lost myself a little bit. I think you just you don't really know what you're doing. I kind of had his flag in my hand. I was like, shit, I better drop that. I don't want to get it unsportsmanlike or something like that. I know the game's over, but I don't want to get it unsportsmanlike. And I, after all the celebrations, I calmed down a bit. I jogged over and picked his flag up and went and took it to him because I felt a little bit bad about that. But yeah, no, that was definitely probably one of the highlights of my flag career. But as Coach Gibson said, I think everything that went into that final drive is sort of the whole defense just making that stand, because there were multiple plays within our sort of 5 to 10 yard line that we had to defend, and it went on for a long time, like you said. But I think the whole defense really stepped up in those moments, and obviously capped off with the sack. But it was really all about the mental resiliency and just performing under that pressure that you're in at that moment. But I'll always treasure that. And the VO camera was set up right there as well, so I've got that angle as well to kind of look back at, and I can hear the supporters on that one as well, which is
higher quality podcast would play the audio now, but I'm not that. Unfortunately, I don't have that skill. So Grace, that afternoon you become the first of the two GB teams to play Japan. You've both kind of alluded to it, that their style of play makes them kind of an interesting team to go up against. Can you kind of explain a little bit about what they do that's different to maybe kind of how football is played kind of in Britain and in Europe?
Yeah, so they have a lot of side snaps, handoffs, dual kind of dual quarterbacks, really. They definitely have more than one person who can throw a ball, but the women's team anyway had one main quarterback. But because of their kind of multiple handoffs and side snaps and things, it means that obviously that quarterback, whoever that was, could run or throw. So it's kind of dual threat in the way for a defense. You can't, as a blitzer, for example, you can't just kind of run through because they could run. And from a defensive point of view as well, a lot of you kind of have to try and wait out the handoffs, but they're also really like nifty players. So when they did get the ball and they were running, the kind of change of direction was super fast and really hard to keep on top of. And the Japan women's quarterback as well had an absolute arm, so could kind of launch the ball the whole length of the pitch, no problem. So it's not only just the short threat of kind of all the runs and the dual quarterback stuff, you've then got to actually watch deep as well, because she's got a cannon that can throw it deep. So it was an insane game, and I think very different from what we'd faced in all the other games. Even though we'd played like a non-European team in Panama, they kind of played very much like a European team per se, whereas the Japan team were very much what most people would have seen it and could relate it to as like a Mexico team and how they play. So it was very, very difficult, shall we say, to put it lightly.
What do you kind of like when you come up against a team that are capable of doing that? Like what? Like now that you've kind of had some time to think about it, what do you think you take from a game like that, where it's something that is so new to anything that you would normally face?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, from an offensive perspective, I think a lot of people will be using plays like that, like we just kind of discussed earlier. We've already joked at our club team as well that we need to get learning them. But from a kind of a whole game perspective, I think what you struggle with is trying to implement something like that into a training session when a lot of European teams have kind of one set QB and there isn't a bunch of people who can throw a ball really well. It's hard to try and train against and kind of develop the skills, if you like, of how to mark that or defend that. But it's definitely something that we think definitely within the UK anyway, and GB teams maybe need to get a little bit better at, of being able to implement those dual quarterbacks and have that kind of double threat, really.
I never thought of it like that, but you are right. Like there's very few teams, even in kind of the, most teams will have someone else who can throw the ball, but if they were pressed into being your starter, you would probably not bet on them. Whereas, it's hard to replicate in training then, right? Where that's an interesting one. Obviously, for yourself on offense, you were still able to kind of move the ball. Play, yourself. You played well in that game. What's it like defensively? Like when you see their offense doing that, and then you go out on the field. Is their defense kind of like conventional, or European conventional? That's the wrong word, but like European style. Is that? Did you feel like you were playing you kind of felt like you knew what the defense were going to do, or is it also kind of a bit unusual?
No, their defence didn't do anything that we weren't expecting them to do, really. They are a slightly shorter team in terms of their players, but they are all super fast and, like I say, can change direction quite rapidly. So from an offensive perspective, you knew you had to run your routes really well because they'd be on top of you. You made a comment. I actually had a couple of drops in that game, which ended up being important ones, which are always hard to get over. But that's really kind of what the game came down to from an offensive perspective anyway, is there was just a couple of moments that had they gone in a slightly different direction, the game probably would have gone in a different direction as well. We had a couple of penalties, a couple of drop balls, and playing against a team, like I say, that it's hard for any defence to try and mark. It's super unique to anything we've faced before. So definitely a learning curve and something that I think post the game we all came together and knew that it would be a good learning curve.
Yeah. So obviously I know that you guys have, it's been amazing actually to see kind of the honesty from you guys about kind of on your Instagram account and kind of what you guys have written about, that was a big disappointment. How do you handle that in the moment, knowing that there's still, you've still got games to...
I'd love to give you the perfect company line, but I would say we handled it not as well as how Liam said the men's team handled theirs. We have a lot of big personalities and a lot of emotions came out after that game, individually. I think a lot of, personally, I was kind of upset, angry of the way the game had gone. I think we had such high aspirations for the tournament, and for them to kind of... It's crazy to think that you're going from one game which puts you in the top 4 to then all of a sudden playing for a top 8 from the place of one score. That was the only difference in it. One moment in that game and you're playing for top 4 or top 8 is really hard to kind of deal with. But very similar to kind of what Liam said about the men's coaches, our coaches, they went and did kind of the film themselves for the following day. They kind of said take the evening to kind of decompress from it. And that's kind of how we worked, really. But it was really difficult. Can't beat around the bush there.
No, I don't know. I don't know what I think. Yeah, I think it's just from someone who, is essentially a glorified fan of the team. It's been very cool to see kind of the things that have been written about it. Because much like Liam on the men's side, it is disappointing from you guys who have put a huge amount of work in, and I can't imagine you would be in the position that you are in if you didn't care that much. No one makes it to the national team level if they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to own it. You have to be honest. You have to own that the game didn't go the way we wanted. Everyone owned that they could have played better in that game. There's lots of decisions that could have been done differently that would have resulted in a different outcome. But that's the first step, isn't it? Is kind of accepting that, owning that, and then ultimately learning from it.
And it's also, I guess, in the sense of you have to own your goals as well, right? The goal was to go deeper into the tournament for both teams, and I think that's what's very exciting about both your squads at the moment is that level of aspiration is really cool. The fact that you guys are kind of being at the Worlds is not enough is it's really I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but it's really inspiring for that.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to after the tournament to Brittany, the quarterback, and I was saying what's frustrating is that from within the team we all know we have so much more to show. We are so much better than a 7th place, and it almost makes you so much hungrier to kind of go and prove everyone wrong and go and prove to the world that actually you can do it. So it pushes you on, if nothing else.
The aspiration level, I just can't get. I just think it's amazing. I really do. So I guess Liam, on your side, you then also played Japan that afternoon, and I know Grace has kind of talked us through the way that the teams kind of play, the Japanese teams play their offense. What was your take on playing that style of offense?
Yeah, it's definitely something a little bit different. It's not something, it's hard to go away and replicate that in a camp and try and scout it, as it were, and try and prepare for it. So it was interesting to play against, and I think actually we did okay. We had a good idea before the game. That's kind of how they were going to play, because at that point they'd played a few games. We were able to watch them in the build-up. We had a bit of time after the spinning game and to kind of have a look at that. And actually, from watching France, we actually looked at the France v Japan game when preparing for the French game. So we kind of got a little bit of a feel for how Japan were going to play. So yeah, I think at times we could have done better against it, but I think ultimately we had some good moments as well on defense. As a blitzer, definitely a hard task when you've got so many people moving around the backfield, having to keep an eye on where the ball's going, trying to make sure that as a blitzer, you want to be quite predictable so that the DBs behind you can react to what you're doing. So as a blitzer, that's a really important role. So if I'm being quite inconsistent with how I'm dealing with that kind of stuff, it makes it much harder for the guys behind me. So that was kind of a focus for me. I'd say ultimately that was one of my weaker games on a personal level. Just didn't play as well in that game from a blitz perspective. We got the job done in the end, and it was an even more intense kind of finish than the Spain game in some ways. I think I have a lot of respect for the Japanese team. I really enjoyed the way they come together as a team. I think the way they warm up, and I think we can learn quite a bit from the way that they're quite together. And I love the way they go and bow at the end of the game to the fans that were there, and they show a lot of respect to kind of their opponents, which I really like. I was able to swap jerseys actually with their quarterback, who also wears number 14, so I was quite happy with that. He was an excellent player. He was their main kind of quarterback, but they did do quite a bit of the dual kind of QB stuff. But yeah, that was pretty cool. I hope that we get to play them again in the future, because I would like that. But yeah, the game ended on an incredible, well, not quite ended, I suppose, but on defense, the incredible pick by Maka on the goal line on 4th down. So we were pretty much backs to the wall, down by 4 at that point. So obviously if they score, it's game over. We wouldn't have had enough time to score twice. And yeah, it just makes a play I don't think anyone else can make, to be honest, in the whole tournament. I felt like he was probably the best defensive player at the whole tournament. Obviously a little bit biased, but I think he probably genuinely has some claim to that. And that was just an insane play to take that. And then have the wherewithal to sort of turn to our bench and ask if he should put the ball down at the 1 yard line or score, just to make sure that, clockwise. And obviously he put it down. I think the Japanese coaches and players were a little bit asking for a flag, because he was going past their bench while doing that. But he was genuinely just asking our coaches if he should put the ball down. But yeah, that was just to watch that, because I'm blitzing. The guy gets the ball. I'm trying to go for his flags. He throws it. I turn around. I just see Maka come out of absolutely nowhere just to pick the ball off and then take it the full length of the field. Yeah, I'll always remember that moment.
Like the noise I made, again, sitting at my desk when I basically saw him land from the jump with the ball was probably unbecoming. Like that was, yeah, because like you say, it was, Japan had got the ball on the 1 or whatever,
Yeah, it was just like 1.5 yard line. And they'd lined up 5 across as well. So there was no quarterback. It was just 5 players in a line across. So as a blitzer, I'm just a little bit thrown off by that.
Yeah.
And so we didn't really know exactly what was coming. We knew some trickery was coming, obviously. But yeah, just an incredible play.
Yeah. I actually had to go back and watch it a few times to kind of, because obviously as a fan, you're not maybe some people do. I do not have the capacity to watch what the defense is doing. I watch the ball. That's the kind of film watcher I am. I just watch the ball, right? So yeah, I had to go back and watch it a few times to kind of see how the defense developed, because funky formation to start. Very good. Very, very high level football on that one. Yeah. Were you guys at that one, Grace? Was that? No, you guys were. You just finished.
There. Yeah. I'm not sure about the overlap of them. Yeah. But yeah, we weren't there for that one, unfortunately. So I'll have to do a Leon with our Panama game and go back and watch that one, because it sounds like a good game.
Skip to the end, it's definitely worth it.
As someone who had to watch every GB game, I say had to like it was a chore, but as someone who watched every GB game, you guys were bad for my heart rate. So obviously, final day is kind of a bit different, kind of in the morning before going to the stadium for kind of the big set piece finals. Yeah, so we'll start. Yeah, we'll do the boys first. So Liam, you had Israel. A team. Have you played Israel before?
I haven't. No, I don't know if the guys played them in 2019 or not, but we definitely didn't play them last year in the Euros. So yeah, first time for me.
How did that what did it feel like when you woke up on the last day and it's the last day and you've only got one game?
Yeah, I think we were really up for it. And I think that's credit to us and credit to the guys, is that they were still really up for a placement game like that. And I think you have to be, because the way the rankings play out and the points that are available for winning games and finishing in certain places, I think only the top 8 get bonus points. So like finishing 9th or 10th doesn't get you that, but it's also a pride thing as well, right? And the way that we played all tournament, it would have been a shame to not approach the game in that way. Israel are an excellent team, and I think they'll definitely challenge for the Euros next year. I was very impressed by them. Ultimately, we lost the game. We had really good moments on both sides of the ball, but they were just a little bit more clinical than us, particularly in the second half. It's a shame, actually, that wasn't streamed and you weren't able to watch it. Yeah, there was some disappointment, obviously, but we were able to quickly sort of reflect back on the whole week and be quite proud of the way that we played and the way we came together and what we've achieved. I think a top 10 finish has a nice ring to it. Even if we could have finished and would like to finish higher. I feel like you look at some of the teams that finished in the top 8, and I think that we do very well against them. So it gives us a lot of confidence, I think, going forward. But yeah, it's a shame. It was a shame to lose that last game. But we lost to a very good team.
Thankfully, the play-by-play text commentary, I don't know if you guys had seen that on the Sport app thing, was still going.
Oh, nice. I never saw that.
I was essentially copying and pasting it onto Instagram stories because so many people were being like, the stream's down, what's happening? So I was like, it was my only... I don't know how the BBC live text people do it for big events, but that was my assignment for the...
You did fantastic work all week, so it's really appreciated. Like anyone who ever asked, so people who don't really follow Flag, who know me and know I was going there, they would ask, "Oh, how do I follow the tournament? Can I watch it?" I was like, "Go on the Way We HNC It Facebook or Instagram page, and they'll direct you to where to go." Like, that's all I would say. I didn't even say go on the IFAF website or go on the the tournament website or anything like that. I said go on the Way We HNC It page because I know they'll put you right.
There's this tiny group of Scots guys that will keep you right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Grace, you guys get up in the morning. You've got Italy. You know that it's essentially the World Games playoff. Winning you're in. How do you even approach a game like that? Kind of because there's a lot on the line, right? And then how was that morning for you?
Yeah, so obviously we'd come off the back of 2 losses the day before, so Japan and obviously then Canada. And I think a lot of it was just kind of the job's not done yet. We can reflect and we can have the feelings after, but we wake up and we've got another game to go. And obviously in our case, a big game because it's like you say, it's World Games or not World Games. And I think a lot of it was the common theme really was within the camp of 1, this is still a very big game, and 2 was use your frustrations from those other 2 games and just go and leave everything out on the field for that final game against Italy, play the best you can, and we'll win kind of thing. And that was the aim. The aim was just go and win the game, get that spot, and then we can prove a point next year kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's essentially how it went down. So I guess when the final whistle went, what was your kind of primary emotion? Do you can you even remember? Because I know it's like a big moment, right? And it's
it was. I mean, personally, that's when all my emotions came in at the end of that game. I bottled a lot of it up from kind of once I'd got myself together after the Japan game, and then kind of moved on quickly from the Canada game as well. It was just kind of put a lid on it for now. Job, like I said, previous job's not done. But after that game, it all came crashing through for me personally. I think from a team perspective, we were glad that we'd won that game and got through to the World Games, and we're glad that we could have that experience. But yeah, from a personal perspective, the emotions and the floodgates opened after that game because I just knew that's not what I wanted, and it's not what we wanted as a team.
I hope you can reflect back on it a little bit, and I think you have done, and actually be very pleased in some ways with, personally, to come back from an ACL injury and then go and compete at a World Championships. I think that's just a massive credit to the work you must have put in to get there. There must have been some very hard, dark mornings and days to get to that point, so you should be really proud of yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I did, and everyone around me kept telling me that as well. So like I said, my parents were there, and my best friend Kelly Barrett, who everyone knows, she was there as well, who unfortunately herself couldn't play this year, and everyone tells you, but I think at that point, I couldn't think about it then. All I thought about was 7th, and that's not what we wanted. But yeah, I've definitely been able to look back now and think, God, I actually made it. Because there were times like even April of this year, they were telling me I wasn't going to make it in time. So yeah, it's a reflection point.
Yeah, definitely. I know you can imagine that kind of acute feeling. It's hard to really put it into context, but I hope you can kind of do that now. And then when you're preparing for the World Games, like that'll be another thing to look forward to, and I can't wait to watch you guys. Hopefully all the games are streamed. Hopefully, we don't know. I'm fingers crossed, because I'd love to come and watch, but it's a long way to go and quite expensive.
It's a very, very, very long way to go. It's a shame. It's a real shame that it's only a women's division. It would have been nice to see both.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure why they didn't in the end. Maybe it's a capacity thing, but yeah, no, you guys will go smash it, I'm sure.
I had to look up Chengdu on a map, and because China's absolutely massive and there's mega cities all over the place. I was like, I've got no idea.
It looks like a really lovely city.
It looks amazing, right? It looks amazing.
It'll be an incredible event as well. If
the first batch of Google Images or anything to go by, it looks like an absolutely amazing city. Yeah. So I guess there's no. I won't put you on the spot to break any news or anything. There's not a huge amount available online at the moment, but hopefully we'll get more World Games news soon. So finals. You guys obviously went down to the stadium. Now, friend of the show and all-round legend Andy Keith simply sent me a kind of 5-word text, which was just flag football in a stadium! ! What's that like? I know you guys were, you guys would have been you both wanted to be on pitch level. I know, I know that you would have both.
Yeah, I was very jealous of the people that were out there, I must admit.
But what was that like? I think Liam, you posted a video of kind of walking through the door and then being in the top of the stand and looking down on pitch level. What was it like for you guys to see that sport that you practice on a muddy field in that on a park, kind of in the rain, in England, and then all of a sudden there's the bright lights on a Friday night in a stadium with it being beamed around the world. What's that as an experience?
I think it really legitimizes the sport. I think, so being there in person, the way that it was laid out, just how good the pitch looked from up in the stands, just the players coming out with some fireworks and stuff. I think that was really cool. And then having watched the games back on the stream now as well, it just looks so high quality as well. Not just one fixed camera. They had a really interesting camera angle when teams got towards the red zone, I noticed, where it was a little bit more kind of towards a bit higher up and to the side. I think just stuff like that, and it just really hits home that this sport has moved on massively even since I started playing in 2019, and it's just going to carry on developing. I think it just, really, like I say, really legitimizes, and it was just a great spectacle. But very jealous of the players that were on the pitch.
Yeah, I can't add anything more than that, really. It was an amazing experience to be even just in the stands and witness that. Obviously, we all know it's not where we wanted to be, but just the fans as well. We had the USA fans just a little bit further down from where we were sat, and obviously they were super loud, and it was just nice that they'd kind of opened the one main block. I think they actually needed more space, but they opened one main block, so all that the noise as a fan was all really contained. Okay. And it did feel like you were just at this huge sporting event, which is definitely exciting for the future and kind of really highlights where flag could go.
And both Finland games and then both bronze medal matches were right to the end as well. Which I thought was very cool because that's the product, right? Is you need, if you're going to beam it and put all that production value, and you need close games in that weird position where you've played in the tournament but now you're watching as a fan. Is there any of those across the kind of I don't know how many of the 6 games you were there for, but was there any kind of on-field moment that you were just that's it, this is amazing just to be here as a spectator?
I mean, I know that are the predominant teams. Obviously, Austria made the final. They're a very, very strong team. So it just shows that it's not. I mean, the USA men's are probably a level above, but it just shows that there's between all the other countries behind them at the moment. It's very close and very competitive, and I think that's great for the sport. So yeah, seeing them beat Mexico and get the bronze medal was pretty cool.
Yeah, I would second that really. Like Liam said, it was in most accounts an upset as well, which as a kind of neutral party, you always kind of enjoy them a little bit more. And then from the women's side, I think when we were watching the Japan-Austria game, and even the final with Mexico and USA, I think we all had a common theme. We could beat these, and just watching it, obviously amazing players, and both games were great, but I think we all thought we can do this, like a bit more work, a bit more time, and we can do this. And I think that's what was nice as well, is being able to watch it and think one day, like, all this hard work will pay off, because that'll be us.
Definitely.
In-person scouting, clipboards out.
At least you get World Games next year to go and get a shot at them. We have to wait till 2026 now to play the non-European teams.
Yeah, that's a long time away, but a lot can change in that time.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got a wee bit of time. So if we look forward to the next year, obviously Euros venue kind of TBC at the moment, waiting on an IFAF announcement. Obviously, we know that kind of earlier in the summer there'll be a trip to China for the women's team. Do you have any conversational Chinese? Great.
No, my only language is English, so definitely can't do Chinese.
Or did you get your Duolingo subscription for your Christmas or something?
Yeah, that would be good.
But yeah, obviously, even before that, obviously, Liam, you've got the conclusion of the mixed season this weekend. Grace, you've got a very big women's season coming, as Coventry looks to extend. Kind of, what do you? I guess we'll start with you, Liam. What do you think your next year looks like in terms of?
Good question.
Flag.
So yeah, looking forward to Saturday. Should be good fun, and Sunday as well, watching Division 1. And then I would like to have a little bit of time off flag. I just need a week. Where I don't talk about flag, I don't watch flag, or I don't do any training. The other 51 weeks of the year, that's all I do. But just for 1 week, I think, just not to get burnt out, I just need a little bit of time. So I think end of September I'll do that. And then the silver trials, the Lions trials, and the new silvers under 21s trials at the end of October in Loughborough. So if people listening want to know more about that, yeah, the BAFA flag page is or the GB men's flag page on Instagram at the moment has a post up with the link to essentially you can nominate yourself for the trials, or you can nominate somebody else. So that'd be good. I'm kind of involved from a coaching perspective for the Silver Lions, so I'm looking forward to going to that. And then I think we'll have trials for the gold team, so the team that will go to the Euros. That's going to be in November, so that'll be a kind of invite only. That's something to look forward to as well. And then after that, 2025, it'll be some probably camps every month, I hope, at least, in the build up to whenever the Euros is going to be. And then there are some other plans afoot that I'll keep to myself for now as a national programme. But yeah, there's lots to look forward to in 2025, and obviously another season with the Crows as well.
Grace, what about yourself?
Yeah, so as much as I'd like a week off, that's not going to happen for us, because we have Champions Bowl coming up in October, and then the season starts actually while we're in Champions Bowl, so we won't be doing that one. But yeah, and then they're once a month then until March. They've slightly changed the format of the Women's League this year. So yeah, it's obviously, like you say, it's a big year for the Cougars this year. I was obviously out last year. We had another one of our players out kind of a lot really with injury, and then obviously our quarterback was pregnant, so it was a rough year last year. So we're looking to come back all guns blazing for that. Hopefully get to the finals for number 10. And then I also have a tournament possibly in Barcelona in November, and then in terms of GB, we get going again in February. So yeah, it's all guns blazing.
You just reminded me, I'm going to that tournament in November, the World Club Championships. I'm going with the Silvers as a coach. So I'm looking forward to 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. finishes and going to the Sun Loungers or the beach because it looks really nice. I've never been to Cambrils before. Have you been, Grace, when Champions Ball previously?
Yeah, I've been a couple of times now. Dorado Bowl and Champs Bowl. It's a really good venue. Really, really nice venue. So
that's going to be a lovely little bit of winter sun.
Fingers crossed, anyway.
Topping up the tan. You'll probably get more there than you will in the Midlands anyway. Yeah. So yeah, there's not really an off season, is there? Not anymore. There used to be, but there's not anymore.
Definitely not. And when you play the mixed league as well, the women's, you really don't. You barely get a week off. When you do GB, the mixed league and women's league, it's just all year round. Everyone's like, "Oh, so when does your season start?" And I'm like, "Which one?" Because they just roll into another.
Yeah, which one? Indeed. That's like the best answer, isn't it? It's like you'll have to be more specific. No, cool. No, that's great, guys. I'll let you go because time is cracking on. But I thank you so much for coming on this evening. I've had a great time. And I hope you can both reflect on kind of the successes of the tournament. And it sounds like you have, and it sounds like you're all guns blazing, and the overwhelming support that we saw kind of through the social media pages. I hope that if you do get the chance, you should go back and look through and see some of the comments if you haven't already, because there were a significant amount more hits on everything we did than any of us were expecting. People were...
That'll be all the people that I said go and follow your page if you want to follow
all of Liam's mates were
all Liam's hard work.
All of Liam's mates were all over the Facebook page.
I'll take credit for that.
And yeah, it really did feel like the entire flag football community that already existed were behind you. It felt like we pulled in plenty of new flag football fans, and that's because of the performances and I know it only shows maybe for a week, but that all comes from the hard work that you guys put in kind of over the many years of your career. So, if you can be proud of that, at least please do, because it was epic to see this like outpouring of like GB love for the week.
We felt it for sure.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Good. And thank you as well to you and all the hard work that you guys put in behind the scenes as well. I mean, the only way people are going to learn about flag is if the information's out there, and you're a huge source for that now. So big thank you to you guys too.
No, Thank you very much, guys. And that has been an evening with Liam Harper and Grace Conway. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you at the BAFA Flag National Flag Football League finals this weekend in Manchester. Please do come and say hello. But for now, that is the way we HNC it.